Kundalini, psychological curiosity or biological actuality, mysterious even to those who've awakened it. Once you have the diaphragm working, you'll notice an energy buildup in the lower belly. Simply command the breath to change directions. It will obey. You should feel a tingle at the base of the spine, the Kundalini slowly awakening. When the coiled energy of the lower regions climbs the spine and explodes in the brain, anything can happen. From a shimmering light show to a blissful oneness, Kundalini manifests itself in many and numerous ways.
Kundalini, oftentimes they mix it up with Kundalini yoga because they think that Kundalini is only associated with Kundalini yoga. Kundalini yoga is just one technique out of many, many, many techniques of how do you awaken Kundalini energy and how do you do it in a safe way? How do you do it in a way so it's not a complete upheaval over your life, and find a way to manage the energy that starts moving through you?
I have a slightly different take, Corinne, and that is Kundalini yoga is very active. I think of Kundalini energy, at least the path of getting there, as less. In other words, less effort in terms of violent aerobic type physical effort. In a sense, less is more. I did some Kundalini yoga back in the late 60s and found it that I wasn't getting anywhere.
Oh yeah,
When I
that's
took up Kundalini meditation, I found out truthfully that less is more, because basically what it does is working on this meditation on regulating the breathing so that you're taking in more air and you're taking it in silently. You can get to the point where you can't even hear yourself inhale or exhale. And that starts the whole sexual sublimation process.
because it's funny. A lot of people think of Kundalini yoga as, you do breath of fire and you do a lot of, what to call this, the Sufi rock, and you move around a lot, but actually that's not the case with all the Kriyas. Some of them are active in the beginning to build up your energy field, but then the whole point is to go into an entirely meditative state.
I never took any classes for anybody at any time. Everything I got, everything I've done, I've gotten out of a book. The journey is just as important as the objective, as the destination. And that's what I learned. I learned to be a good detective.
That's actually one of the things I learned from my first mentor, is to never just take it for granted what someone else says about a spiritual path or how you might get somewhere, because really it's very internal and you should always weigh things with your own internal wisdom. And that's he kept me from reading any type of spiritual book for at least a couple of years. He's like, no, don't read anything. Anything you learn, I want you to gain it through introspection.
Basically, I did a lot of reading at the beginning because that's when I was doing my detective work. I started getting feedback from the body, sensations, so I knew that energy was being shifted around. I mean, a Kundalini at its basic essence is an energy shift that starts occurring and being triggered by many different types of triggers, everything from Shaktipat to meditation to just a sexual encounter to an emotional disturbances.
Even practicing healing energy, sending healing energy back.
Well, Kundalini is a healing energy, so it started when it awakened with me. It uses the nervous system to inventory problem areas in my body and then send that information back to the brain, and then the brain starts directing Kundalini energy to the vulnerable points.
If you have blockages, large emotional blockages in your psyche, in your aura, or if you've even got physical issues, when you activate Kundalini, sometimes those things really get exacerbated. And that's something that I found that Kundalini yoga, because it's also a physical activity and not just a meditation. I mean, there are many different kriyas, one's for, for example, there's some for circulation, there's some for, strengthen your spine, clear out your endocrine system.
Everybody kind of knows that Kundalini is an energy shift.
Yes.
you know, and that it's located at the base of the spine. But what they seem to miss out is Kundalini a religious experience or is it a science?
Ah, that's a
Over
really good
time,
point.
I've leaned towards science for the very fact that you can be converted to another religion. I can change later on when I'm 20, when I'm 40. I can become a Buddhist. You can't be converted to Kundalini.
Yeah,
It's a
not
it's
a
a physical
not a belief
process.
system. I think you're absolutely right about that. And what happens is a lot of people try to create a belief system around the Kundalini because it's so mysterious, because we don't understand yet. We're finding similarities between how people actually get there. And that's what's so exciting to me. I mean, you can superimpose any type of cultural belief, religious belief on top of it, but what is it really underneath? I mean, to me, it's all about making us superhuman. And in that process, it's making us more compassionate as well, because it's like we're being invited to help our species, you know, survive on this planet. And in order to do that, we have to become
Hopefully,
more connected.
hopefully more compassionate.
Yes.
Although I've had consultations with people, one of whom a couple of years ago, I found out later that he was an out and out outspoken racist. And
Wow.
like I was saying before, you can't be converted to Kundalini any more than you can be converted to an orgasm or a heart attack.
That brings up another great point with Kundalini. Some people think, oh, I had a Kundalini awakening, now I'm enlightened. And it's like, oh gosh, no, actually now you're starting to go through the cleaning out process. You know, I feel like because somehow, like if you look at it scientifically, your neural networks are so activated that you have easier access to find out like what blocks you. What I noticed is when I really feel that energy being active, like I can, at this point, like I can almost pull it up when I need to. And I can start feeling like there's more energy in my hands, my fingertips, and then I can look around and I can notice that's when I can actually see aura.
Some of these higher consciousness aspects express themselves through maybe language learning or something like that, but
Yeah,
also sensitivities, realizations that such and such, like there is no death.
I believe like our consciousness are like like a piano with, you know, you've got a certain number of octaves. And before a Kundalini awakening, let's say you're really only able to reach 3 octaves. And then once you have a Kundalini awakening, suddenly you can reach 10. But whether you live and utilize all those octaves all the time, you actually don't. You just have the capacity to utilize them because the doors are open. But in order to really explore those doors, I mean, I believe it requires, you know, probably a completely different lifestyle than we can lead being in the Western world, and real dedication and you know, that word again, grit.
For me, that reaching those octaves, I've discovered that the practice of mindfulness is a big help there, because what that does is, I mean, the purpose to me of mindfulness is emotional control. And one of the things that happens when Kundalini strikes or activates is you don't necessarily maintain emotional control. As a matter of fact, Gopi Krishna spoke of different times when he more or less lost control, even though Kundalini was active. That happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
But
Same.
mindfulness is the study or the practice of invoking a, a a sense of who you are, where you are at a given moment, and that you are you in your body. And the purpose is not getting outside of yourself and losing emotional control.
Not sure what happened or why the evolutionary energy, also known as chi, the life force, prana, ki, bioplasmic energy, found you? Let Corinne and JJ help you adjust. Combining empathy and intelligence with over 60 years of living with Kundalini, Corinne and JJ will help you integrate Kundalini into your life. To ask questions and get answers about your Kundalini experience, join hosts Corinne Lebrun and JJ Semple in a Zoom meeting format. Kundalini. Explore the mystery.